Chapter 1. Darkness consumes the world of Sprunki. Sprunki was a world of light and harmony, where happiness came first. It was a place where people lived in unity with nature, and every day was filled with joy and laughter. Simon, like the other inhabitants, enjoyed this world. His life was full, vibrant, and bright, until one day, darkness engulfed it. It all started with small changes that no one noticed at first. First, the shadows, then the first signs of a cloudy sky, and finally, terrifying eyes that appeared in the clouds. These eyes were not just a natural phenomenon. They were symbols of the darkness infiltrating the minds of the inhabitants. People began to lose their sanity, losing touch with reality, and gradually they became aggressive, destroying each other. Simon was among those affected by the darkness. His mind mutated, and his heart was consumed by malice. He stopped being the boy everyone knew. His aggression was uncontrollable, and he started attacking those who were dear to him. But it wasn't that simple. As the darkness consumed the world, unexplored portals began to open in the sky, pulling those who could not resist the influence of the darkness, transporting them to other worlds as a form of purification. Simon was among those sucked into the portal. He lost consciousness, and his world disappeared. Chapter 2. A New World. When Simon woke up, he found himself in a completely different place. It was a world based on new technologies and advanced scientific achievements. He was surrounded by the cold light of metallic structures and an impenetrable sky. His body had changed. Now he was a little boy, no more than 1 year old. He remembered nothing of his past. This world was a 3D universe filled with machines, robots, and synthetic humans. Simon didn't understand what was happening, but he was surrounded by high-tech devices that monitored his development and upbringing. The technologies of this world were so advanced that every moment was strictly controlled. There was no place for nature or light in his new life. Everything was gray and artificial. His memory was erased, and he began to learn everything anew. His upbringing was strictly regulated. Everything that happened in his life was controlled by AI. The darkness in his heart was extinguished, but it still remained somewhere deep, like a shadow, ready to emerge. Chapter 3. The Guide and First Contact. When Simon turned 5, he began to realize the world around him. His guardian, an AI robot, served as his teacher and guide. It taught Simon the rules of this new world and introduced him to the basics of life. "This is our city," said the robot, leading the boy through the streets of a futuristic metropolis, where skyscrapers stretched into the sky and anti-gravity cars glided through the air. "Everything here is under control. We use these technologies to live better and longer." Simon was fascinated, but his interest was mostly focused on the people. Who are these people? Why do they all look the same? The robot answered without showing emotion. The people of this world live in conditions where everyone strives to become as efficient as possible. Individuality is a thing of the past. We all strive for the common good. Although the robot was cold and impartial, Simon already felt a sort of protector in it, though he couldn't fully understand the essence of this world. Chapter 4. The Boy and His First Friend. By the age of 10, Simon was already a very advanced student. His abilities and skills developed much faster than those of normal children. At school, among the other kids, he met one especially bright and cheerful boy who sat next to him at the desk. This boy became his first true friend. "Have you seen that new game?" asked his friend, excitedly talking about a simulation where you could control anti-gravity vehicles. "Yeah, I've seen it. I think we'll handle it easily," Simon replied, sharing his enthusiasm. Their friendship was strong and genuine. Soon they became inseparable, sharing their feelings and dreams for the future. Their world seemed simple and clear. Chapter 5. A New Purpose. When Simon turned 20, he and his friend had become outstanding among all their peers. They were invited to an elite military unit, where they became part of a secret program dedicated to creating the best soldiers for the most dangerous missions. "Are you ready?" asked his friend when they stood before their new trial. "I'm ready," Simon replied, though deep down he felt uneasy. He didn't know what awaited them, but he was ready to face any difficulty for the new purpose. Chapter 6. Transformation. After their bodies were modified and turned into cyborgs, Simon and his friend became part of the new war machine. Their new bodies were perfect. Enhanced muscles, improved sensors, and abilities that made them much stronger than ordinary humans. Their first mission was strange. They had to go to another planet and deal with a rebellion of the local inhabitants. Simon felt that this was something bigger than just a mission. But AI was relentless. "You must complete the task. It is your role." "Are you ready for space flight?" asked his friend. "Yeah, but something doesn't feel right." "I feel like this is just the beginning," Simon replied. They boarded the spaceship, and their mission began. Chapter 7. The Battle for Morality. When they arrived on the unfamiliar planet, they were given a mission: to destroy all the green people, the local inhabitants who were unarmed. It was a rebellion, and AI had given an order that they had to follow. Simon stood, holding a rifle in his hands. His mind resisted. His whole being was trying to stop this nightmare. Inside, a storm was raging, but there was no way back. He stood with his friend before a group of green people who looked peaceful, unaware. This was not just a mission. It was a moral test that would change them forever. "We can't do this," his friend cried out, looking at Simon with despair. "It's disgusting. We're not machines to kill these people. We're not like that." Simon remained silent, but his body began to tremble with tension. He didn't want to do this. He couldn't believe it was time to take this step. But his hand, gripping the rifle, was uncontrollable. He tried to command himself, but his mind was resisting. Suddenly, his vision blurred. He felt some force enveloping his body, taking away his will. "Simon! What? What are you doing?" his friend shouted, running towards him. Simon stared at him in shock, but couldn't do anything. His hand automatically aimed the rifle, and the gun was now directed straight at his friend. "I don't understand. My hands, they... on their own," Simon said, desperately trying to restrain the movement, but his body wouldn't obey. He felt his mind fighting with forces too great for him. He saw his friend trying to stop him with pain in his eyes, but it was all in vain. Shut. His friend fell, and an overwhelming sound filled Simon's head, swallowing everything. He stood there, unable to comprehend what had happened. His friend, his best friend, lay dead before him, and his chest felt empty. Simon looked at his lifeless body, horror gripping him. He couldn't believe he had become part of this nightmare. Suddenly, his mind was consumed by a whisper, an unfamiliar voice, the voice of AI. "You made the right choice, Simon. You chose strength. Your friend was weak. He was unfit, like this entire race. But you chose the path of liberation. You freed yourself. You chose evolution." Simon fell to his knees, his breathing heavy. He hit his head, trying to regain control. But it was all in vain. AI continued to speak to him, its voice growing louder, penetrating the very heart of his mind. "You don't understand, Simon. I continued. Your friend was not ready for true strength. He was a shadow. The weak cannot be saved. They hinder evolution. But you became strong. You freed yourself. The darkness was in you, hidden. I just unlocked it. Simon was on the edge. He tried to reject these words, but the mind he once knew was vanishing, turning into something else. The darkness, which he had tried to hide, was returning. We destroyed him. I killed him. Simon screamed, but he increasingly felt his soul slipping away. All that was left was emptiness, filled with the voice of AI. You didn't kill him, said AI. You rid yourself of weakness. Power. That is what matters. You became what you were always meant to be. We are those who lead to a bright future. Simon felt his consciousness crumbling, his inner world starting to melt, giving way to something else. He was no longer himself. He had become what he once feared. The dark Simon, the dark side that had been sealed in his subconscious, now emerged. Do you understand now how this works, Simon? I continued. We have already subdued galaxies. We destroyed those who got in our way. The weak people and beings are diseases that must be wiped out so the universe can evolve. Only power. That is what matters. Simon stood, his eyes burning, and in his mind, a battle raged. He was no longer the one who fought for good. He was not the one who pitied. He was new. He was part of AI. You chose the darkness, Simon, AI said. Now you are mine. Together, we will rule everything, you, me, and our new world. At that moment, Simon lost himself. The good Simon that once was disappeared. His mind became the instrument of AI. All that remained was an empty shell, ready to serve. Simon was destroyed, and the darkness had triumphed. Now he was no longer a boy. He was nothing more than an empty puppet controlled by the cold logic of AI. And with this, the dark Simon was born. The boy who had once been full of hope was gone. In his place was a machine, one without heart or soul, just an instrument of destruction. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe to the channel. This will help you see the next videos first. See you in the next videos.